Halle Berry's story does not begin on a red carpet, under the glare of flashbulbs and the applause of the world. It begins in Cleveland, Ohio, in a modest household where dreams often seemed larger than reality. Born in 1966 to a white English mother and an African-American father, she grew up in an America where race was not just a background detail but a defining line, a wall she would one day learn to break through. Her childhood was not simple, not always safe, and certainly not filled with the glitter of Hollywood. Her father left when she was young, and the absence of a father figure left her with scars that would echo into adulthood. But it also gave her something else: resilience. A toughness that would later become the armor she wore in one of the most unforgiving industries in the world. From an early age, Halle felt the sting of difference. She was one of the few biracial children in her school, and kids can be cruel. She was teased, excluded, sometimes even bullied because of her skin color. But instead of shrinking back, she found ways to shine. She poured herself into school activities, became a cheerleader, and even found her way into beauty pageants. It wasn't about vanity for her, it was about being seen, being acknowledged, proving that she mattered. And soon, she did more than just prove it. She won Miss Teen All-American, Miss Ohio USA titles that placed her in front of cameras, preparing her unknowingly for the stage she would one day command. Pageants open doors, but doors are tricky in Hollywood. They can open just wide enough for you to glimpse the other side, but then slam shut before you step through. Halle moved to New York with little money, a heart full of ambition, and no safety net. She slept in shelters, sometimes struggled to pay for food, but never allowed herself to give up. She worked hard, auditioned endlessly, faced rejection after rejection. For many, this is where the story would end, with broken dreams in a city that eats dreamers alive. But not for Halle. Every no only sharpened her hunger for that one yes. That yes came in television first. Small roles, appearances that gave her just enough visibility to keep going. But then came her breakout, Spike Lee's Jungle Fever, in 1991. She played a crack addict named Vivian, a role that was anything but glamorous. Yet it was this choice, this willingness to play broken and raw, that made Hollywood sit up and notice. She wasn't just another beauty queen trying to act. She was an actress who could embody pain, who could live inside a role so fully that audiences forgot who she was. From there, Halle's career began its climb, but it was never a straight line up. For every success, there was a setback. Hollywood, at the time, had a box for black actresses, and it was small, suffocating, limiting. Roles were stereotypical, opportunities scarce. She fought against this by refusing to settle, by choosing roles that stretched her. She played strong women, complicated women, women who defied expectations. Films like Boomerang opposite Eddie Murphy showed she could do comedy. Bulworth revealed her political edge. And then came Monsters Ball. Monsters Ball was not just a film for Halle Berry. It was the role that would change everything. Playing Letitia Musgrove, a woman drowning in grief, poverty, and longing, Halle delivered a performance so raw, so painfully human, that it shook audiences and critics alike. In 2002, when her name was called at the Academy Awards, history was made. Halle Berry became the first, and to this day, the only black woman to win the Oscar for Best Actress. Standing on that stage in her copper gown, tears streaming down her face, she wasn't just accepting an award. She was breaking a ceiling that had held for too long. She dedicated her win to every nameless woman of color whose opportunities had been denied, whose talents had gone unseen. It was a moment that rippled far beyond the walls of the Kodak Theater. It was a cultural shift, a promise that the world might finally be ready to see black women not as side characters, but as leading ones. But success is not a fairy tale ending, not even with an Oscar in hand. Hollywood, in its irony, didn't suddenly offer her endless groundbreaking roles. Instead, she found herself battling typecasting, struggling against projects that didn't live up to her talent. She had massive successes like playing Storm in the X-Men franchise, bringing to life one of the most iconic black superheroes in comic history. But she also faced flops, films that critics tore apart, roles that left audiences disappointed. Then there was Catwoman. Marketed as a career-defining moment, it turned into one of the biggest box office disappointments in history. For many, it would have been the end. But not for Halle Berry. She even showed up to accept her Razzie Award for the role, holding her Oscar in the other hand, laughing at herself, and proving something rare in Hollywood: humility. She didn't hide from failure. She embraced it, learned from it, and kept moving forward. Off-screen, her life was just as filled with ups and downs. Relationships that played out in the public eye, divorces, the struggles of single motherhood. She faced harsh tabloid headlines, relentless paparazzi, and personal pain that could have broken her. Yet every time, she rose again. She poured her heart into her children, into her advocacy, into building a legacy that was not just about films but about impact. Halle Berry also broke barriers in another way. She became a voice for women of color in Hollywood, speaking out against pay inequality, against the lack of representation, against the boxes the industry still tried to place her in. She used her platform not just to shine, but to shine a light on others, to demand change, to create space where space had long been denied. Her journey reminds us that success is not a straight road. It is a winding path of triumphs and failures, applause and silence, breakthroughs and breakdowns. Halle Berry's story is not just about being the first black woman to win an Oscar, it is about what she represents. Resilience in the face of rejection. Grace in the face of failure. Strength in the face of stereotypes. And above all, the belief that no matter where you come from, no matter how many times you are told no, there is always a way forward if you refuse to give up. Even now, decades into her career, Halle Berry continues to reinvent herself. She stepped into producing and directing, creating opportunities not just for herself but for other women who need a voice. She remains a symbol of beauty, yes, but more importantly, of strength. A reminder that the truest beauty lies not in perfection, but in perseverance. Halle Berry's story is proof that greatness does not come without struggle, that every rejection carries within it the seed of future triumph. For the little girl in Cleveland who was told she didn't belong, who was made to feel less, standing on that Oscar stage was not just a personal victory. It was a message to the world: we all belong, we all matter, and we are all capable of extraordinary things, and that is why her story continues to inspire. Because it is not just the story of Halle Berry, the actress. It is the story of Halle Berry, the fighter. The woman who refused to let the world define her. The woman who turned pain into power, rejection into resilience, and dreams into history.